Colt Everhart wasn't looking for an adventure. He'd been clearing out the old family barn, dust thick in the air, shafts of golden light catching motes as they floated lazily from rafter to floor. He was focused on finding relics, old trinkets, lost treasures from his grandparents' time. That's when he stumbled across a dusty, tarnished watch tucked behind a box of old newspapers. It was beautiful and strange. The watch was unlike anything Colt had ever seen, covered in symbols that looked ancient yet elegant, polished in a way that defied its age. The numbers on its face were unique, like mathematical glyphs or coded letters that resisted any easy interpretation. Without thinking, Colt gave the watch's winding mechanism a turn just to hear the satisfying click of its gears. But the moment he did, something strange happened. The barn around him dissolved in a white-hot flash. Colt's senses went haywire. His stomach churned, his vision blurred, his whole body felt like it was being pulled through a tunnel of light. The world spun back into focus, but it wasn't the barn anymore. Colt blinked, his vision slowly adjusting. He stood outside under a wide, clear sky. The heat was intense, a stark contrast to the cool barn. The smells of dust, leather, and gunpowder tingled in his nose. Around him, people bustled and hurried, men in worn uniforms with firearms strapped to their backs, women clutching their children tightly. A line of horses stood tethered nearby, their saddles well worn, their bridles clinking as they shifted. Where am I?" he murmured, only for his words to be swallowed by the commotion around him. Slowly, realization dawned. He recognized this place from history books, old documentaries, and his favorite podcasts. This was the Alamo, Texas, 1836. And he hadn't just stumbled into any moment. This was a time right before one of history's most infamous standoffs. Colt's heart pounded. His pulse raced with a strange mix of excitement and dread. But amid his fascination, a new awareness settled over him. He wasn't here by accident. He had been brought here, like he'd stepped through a door to the past. The old watch had somehow transported him back in time. The watch lay silent in his hand now, its mechanism no longer humming. It seemed as lifeless as the stones underfoot, a relic with a purpose he didn't yet understand. Act 1. The mission begins. As he looked around, taking in the bustle of people preparing for what they seemed to know was coming, he felt a weight on his shoulders, something deeper than mere curiosity. In a flash, Colt realized what he was here to do. His mind echoed with the purpose of his journey: to document, to observe, to record the top 20 things that happened during the fall of the Alamo. Colt moved with a new sense of determination, taking in every detail as he ventured deeper into the compound. The walls of the Alamo loomed tall and weathered, each stone etched with the grit of survival. This wasn't just any historical site. This was a place carved into the fabric of time itself. He stopped as he noticed a small crowd gathered near the fort walls, where a young officer was rallying the troops. It was Lieutenant Colonel William B. Travis, barely older than Colt himself, yet carrying an air of leadership that radiated authority. Travis's voice rang out, firm and unshakable. "To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world," Travis began, his words carrying the weight of conviction, the raw power of a man fully aware of his duty. Colt's chest tightened as he watched. Travis was risking everything, leading these men with courage despite the impending danger. And Colt, here in this moment, felt something stir inside, a sense of admiration mixed with a pang of dread. This was no longer a page in a textbook. These were real people with real lives. As Travis's speech continued, Colt found himself caught in a flood of emotions. This man and these soldiers, they knew what was coming, but they chose to stand their ground. And Colt, an observer from a distant future, could only watch as history marched on, unyielding in its course. With each moment he documented, Colt felt a growing sense of unease. He saw soldiers preparing their guns, others speaking in hushed voices, sharing quiet, intense glances. These men and women, Texans, volunteers from all corners of the land, they had hopes, dreams, families they'd left behind. And here they stood, willing to die for a cause they believed in. Colt's top 20 moments leading to the fall of the Alamo. Number 1. Travis's plea for reinforcements. Colt witnessed the unwavering resolve in Travis's eyes as he wrote his final letter for reinforcements. The urgency in every word carried the weight of hope, pleading for aid that might never come. Number 2. The line in the sand, Colt. watched as Travis drew a literal line in the sand, asking men to cross if they were ready to die for the cause. The tension was palpable as men stepped forward, sealing their fate in silence. Number 3. Crockett's Rally. Davy Crockett moved among the men, offering words of encouragement. His presence radiated calm courage, and Colt noted how each man seemed braver in his company. Number 4. The women's prayers. Colt listened to the soft, fervent prayers of the women, whispered pleas for peace and safety. The hope in their voices was heartbreaking. Number 5. The cannon preparations. Colt observed the men working with the cannons, the meticulous care in their actions showing their reliance on the fort's limited artillery to hold off the approaching enemy. Number 6. The farewell letters. The men wrote letters to their loved ones, hands trembling with the finality of their words. Each stroke of the pen left a mark on Colt's soul as he witnessed their last messages. Number 7. The tattered flag high above, the Texian flag waved defiantly. Colt saw defenders glance up, drawing strength from its presence. The flag was a beacon of their collective resolve. Number 8. Preparing barricades. Colt watched as they stacked barrels and crates into barricades. The improvised defenses were a testament to their ingenuity and determination to survive. Number 9. A mother's comfort. He saw a mother comforting her child, her voice gentle despite the fear in her eyes. Colt felt a pang of empathy as he saw the innocence wrapped up in this struggle. Number 10. The night watch. The men took turns on watch through the night, each hour stretching with quiet tension. Colt saw their eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting. Number 11. The family's last meal. Families gathered, sharing sparse rations and quiet words. Colt saw the weight of unspoken goodbyes in each gesture. Number 12. A signal of warning. A lookout shouted of the enemy's approach, sparking a rush of preparations. Colt could feel the shift in the defenders' stance as they braced themselves. Number 13. A young boy's question. A young boy tugged on his father's sleeve, asking if they'd be safe. Colt's heart ached at the quiet answer that carried a hint of reassurance and a heavier note of dread. Number 14. Loading the final rounds. Colt observed the men loading their last rounds. This act, done with calm precision, showed the silent acceptance of what they were about to face. Number 15. The Tejano defenders. Among the fighters were Tejanos, men of Mexican descent fighting for Texas independence. Colt felt a deep respect for their loyalty, standing with their brothers despite the odds. Number 16. Santa Anna's orders. From a distance, Colt caught sight of General Santa Anna, issuing commands with unwavering resolve. His presence carried an air of inevitability that chilled Colt to the core. Number 17. The final rally. The leaders rallied the men one last time, filling them with purpose and reminding them of their shared cause. Colt felt a renewed intensity, the calm before the storm. Number 18. The first shots fired. The sudden gunfire shattered the tense silence. Colt's pulse quickened as he realized this was it, the beginning of the end. Number 19. The defenders' last stand. As the men fought, Colt saw a defiance that could not be crushed. Every action spoke of courage and resistance, an unbreakable spirit in the face of impossible odds. Number 20. The fall. Colt witnessed the final moments as the fort fell. In the courage of each defender, Colt saw a story of honor and sacrifice, a legacy that would echo long beyond the walls of the Alamo. Act 2. The conflict within. Colt continued his journey through the Alamo, each step heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. He couldn't shake the images of those he'd seen. The determined glint in Travis's eyes, the steely resolve of Davy Crockett, who moved like a warrior even as he prepared for his final fight. Crockett was a legend in Colt's time, but seeing him here, flesh and blood, gave that legend a new dimension. Colt recorded each event, mentally marking it down as part of his list. Travis's plea for reinforcements, the soldiers preparing the cannons, the quiet, desperate prayers of those who knew they would not see tomorrow. And with each new scene, the inner conflict grew stronger. He could help. He could do something. He was here in this moment, with the power to warn them, to change something, to save lives. But every instinct in him fought against it. Changing history, he knew, was like tampering with the threads of a fragile web. One tug could unravel everything. But as the cries of children, the whispered goodbyes, and the steadfast words of encouragement filled his ears, the weight of his role as a mere observer became unbearable. What if he did intervene? What if he could save just one person, prevent one needless death? The question haunted him, gnawing at him as he continued his walk through the compound. He was torn, trapped between the duty to document and the overwhelming urge to act. To simply observe felt wrong, like a betrayal to those who trusted him, even unknowingly, with their stories. He stood frozen, watching a family huddle together beneath a flimsy tarp, the father's arms wrapped protectively around his children. The fear in their eyes mirrored the knot of anguish tightening in his own chest. He took a step forward, his mind racing. He would warn them, tell them to leave, to find safety, to escape what he knew was coming. Just as he was about to call out, a voice cut through the silence, soft but firm. "You can't change history." Colt spun around, startled. A woman stood behind him, dressed in clothes that seemed out of place, even for 1836. Her face was partially hidden beneath the hood of her cloak, her eyes a piercing blue that held both knowledge and sadness. "Why not?" Colt demanded, his voice raw. "If I can help, if I can make this better, why shouldn't I?" The woman's gaze softened, though her expression remained serious. "Because it isn't yours to change," she replied, her tone filled with a calm that carried years of experience. "History has a purpose, a path. Altering it could destroy everything, could unravel lives far beyond what you see here." Colt clenched his fists, frustration boiling over. "But these people, these lives, they're real. I can't just watch them die." Her eyes lingered on him for a moment, as if seeing into his very soul. Then she nodded toward a narrow path that led away from the compound, away from the chaos of the coming battle. "If you truly want answers, come with me." Colt hesitated, glancing back at the Alamo, at the people he wanted so desperately to save. But he felt the pull of something greater, something he couldn't yet explain. Reluctantly, he turned away from the fort, following the mysterious woman into the shadows. Epilogue, a lesson in time. They walked in silence, the woman leading him toward a hidden enclave beyond the compound. Finally she spoke, her voice gentle but unwavering. "History isn't just a collection of moments. It's a delicate thread that connects us all. Pull one, and the whole tapestry could unravel." Colt didn't respond, but he felt the weight of her words. As they walked, he realized this journey was only beginning, a path that would test not just his understanding of history, but his own principles and beliefs.